Are you ready? You know, they say that they reserve the best for last. And I think this love story is probably one of the love story that is not typically what you want to hear. But I tell you, tonight, ito ang love. All right, that thing called Pag-ibig, welcome. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Ikoy, and for those of you that probably joining us for the very first time, and what's this buzz all around about? Well, the buzz is because we're talking about love. And the series title is That Thing Called Pag-ibig, and it's love stories from faith to faith. We've talked about 4 amazing couples. 4. 4. Sino ba dito naka-4? Meron ba dito naka-4? 4 na perfect attendance? Meron ba naka-perfect attendance? Wow! Okay, puro mga facilitator lang at nakataas ang kamay. Meron bang participant na okay. Mga participant na nakakompleto. Yan! Mga gusto natin. Mga lalaki nakakompleto. Alright. Dapat may mga premyo. Gusto niyo ba bigyan ng mga premyo yung mga Yung mga naka-perfect? Sige, naubo ka bigla. Thank you for those of you joining us for all the 4 weeks. I know you have been blessed as we have been blessed. But those of you joining us tonight, don't worry. As like we've mentioned, this love story packs an amazing punch. So let me just have a quick review. We talked about Adam and Eve, right? Sino ba rito naka-attend na first session, Adam and Eve? Okay, the design, the distraction, the direction, and the designation, right? Then after Adam and Eve, we talked about Samson and Delilah. How can we be manipulative on sometimes for the things that we want, right? And then last week, sino rito last week? Last week. Okay, last week we talked about Boaz and Ruth. Okay, and now tonight, we're going to talk about the 4th love story. And tonight we'll talk about Hosea and Gomer, a selfless love. Okay, kaklaruhin ko lang muna. Itong love story na to para sa mag-asawa. Okay? Para sa mag-asawa. So baka inisipin natin, yan pala, kita mo na yung love story ng kahit boyfriend and girlfriend lang, ganito na dapat pala magmahal. Baguhin ko muna, ulitin ko lang. Kakambi muna tayo ng konti. Sorry, meron ba ritong hindi nakakintindi ng Tagalog? Taas kamay, ano ba? Okay, good. Lahat tayo rito, Pinoy, Pilipino. Okay? Alright, good. So, kaklaruhin ko lang, this story, the love story of Hosea and Gomer, is probably a story you wouldn't want to really look at as a dream love story when you start off your marriage. Because clearly, this is a different kind of a love story. But let me just refresh your memory quickly on our first session about 4 weeks ago when we talked about the design. Remember the design? Bakit importante na alam natin ang design? Why is it important? Why is it important that we need to know the design of a husband and a wife, or a man and a woman in a relationship? Why is it important that we need to know the design? Napaka-importante po niyan kasi kapag mali ang ating understanding about husband and wife, if we have the wrong perspective, obviously, we will have a wrong behavior, we will have a wrong attitude, we will have a wrong perspective, and we will have misplaced expectations that puts the toll, the stress, and the tension in husband and wife, in a couple. And we don't have to look far. Tingin lang tayo sa paligid natin. Hindi po sa mesa natin, but tingin lang tayo sa paligid natin, sa pamilya natin, sa community natin, sa trabaho natin, sa kamakaibigan natin, that you would see that all around the world today, the family is under attack. Family is under attack. So many people, so many families, though in the Philippines, since divorce is not yet official or is not yet allowed, so many people or families living together in one house and yet live as if they're acting in divorce. They don't spend time together, there's no more intimacy, they're just going through the notion. And I was shocked. I was shocked when I realized that the number of teenage pregnancy nowadays have shot out of the roof. Sobrang taas na po ang percentage ng unwanted teenage pregnancy. Second, ang taas na po, they're starting very young. And as young as 14 to 16 years old, people are getting pregnant. The number of single parents raising up kids nowadays are also its all-time high. Number of households being broken is also an all-time high. And so why do we need to understand the design? Because the reason a lot of these things are happening right now is because people have a wrong notion of the design. And so that's why we're encouraged and we're excited that a lot of you are coming back here every Friday. But really, you know what? What's in our heart, what's really in our prayer, is that whatever we're learning, whatever we're understanding, we're really going to put it in our hearts. And we would really apply it. Because this country, this world, the families that we all live in now, they're really under attack. So make no mistake about it. We all have a role to play in that. If we, in this room, get it, then there is a chance for the second generation. But if we, who are already exposed in the right perspective, if we already know the design, if we really want to follow the perspective and the right biblical concept of marriage, we do not apply it, paano pa yung mga ibang taong hindi alam? That's why napaka-importante po. So let me just quickly run down again the design. How do we look, or what are the characteristics that we should aspire for in a husband and wife team? What are the 4 things, if you could still remember? Okay? Ang acronym, ano yung acronym natin? LLPP. Okay, what's the first L? Love. Okay? When you come up in a relationship, it's all about love, a commitment. And love is not just merely giving the best to the other person, it's loving that other person according to God's design. Bakit importante natin malaman yon? Kasi if you want to give your best to someone, minsan, yung best natin is not good for them. I've seen it. I've seen working, very busy parents trying to lavish their kids with so many things. Lahat ng gusto, binibigay. Lahat ng gusto, binibigay. Kasi yun ang tingin niya, yun ang best eh. But the kid does not need that. The kid needs the time and the attention of the parents. But since the parent has a wrong idea, the wrong design, yun ang nangyayari. I was listening to a story about a father who loves his son so much, and his son is an addict, drug addict. But the father believes that the way to love his son is to give the son more money, and the money is being used by the son to spend it on drugs. Then obviously the amount and the perspective of the love that the father thinks his son would be getting is completely the opposite. The more he gives that love, the more that's going to be unbeneficial to the son. And so I know you're following me now, that the design is quite an important thing, and that's why love the person in the right place, in the right time, in the right way, and the way is the biblical way. The second L is what? Lead. Our role is to lead men. We're designed to lead man and woman. But women, your role as a helpmate, as a helper, as a suitable partner is also to ensure that you lead your husband to the right path. That's why it's important that the husband and the wife is one, together, understanding the same purpose, the same goal. Kaya kung lalaki at babae, magkahiwalay interest, magkahiwalay direksyon, magkahiwalay purpose, hindi po yun ang design. That's why I kept on harping. A lot of people split, husband works abroad, wife stays here for so many years. I mean, that is not the design. And so that's why we're bring up a lot of things that are not according to design. That's why it's wrong. We need to check it. And then what's the third characteristic? P? Protect, right? We need to protect one another. Remember, love bears all things. Remember that definition? Okay, so it's protecting one another. So as men, we should protect our wives, but wives should also do that. Wives should protect their husbands as well. And the last part is we need to provide. Husbands, we are called to be a provider. So LLPP, love, lead, provide, and protect, and then provide. And that's why we talked about the distraction, the design, and the direction. But tonight, what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about demonstration. We need to demonstrate. And we're going to look at the Bible, how it demonstrates about love. I would assume about 80% of you here do not know me from before. So a lot of you do not know that I am an avid photographer. Photographer ako dati. I'm a professional photographer. I used to shoot weddings, and I plucked some photos. Can I see this? I plucked some photos in my Facebook account years ago when I shoot weddings. And one of the best part of being a wedding photographer is that you get to see the behind the scenes. The hours leading up to a wedding is an amazing source of encouragement and inspiration. Makikita mo yung sparkle sa mga mata ng bride. Makikita mo yung tension and that yung love ng lalaki. And one of the things I look forward to is when the groom waits for his wife or his bride to come out. Yun una-una. As a photographer, yung tinitignan mo yung mata ng groom. Kasi paglabas ng bride dun sa simbahan, yung mata ng lalaki, talagang nagpapawis. Pero sabay na merong kintab. Tindi. Alam mo yung mga ganun, you cannot manufacture that. That is the genuine look of the guy looking at his bride for the very first time. And why do I say that? Because I would not doubt if 99.9% of all of us here, if I even say 100% of us here, who is still single, dreams of the time when we will get married. When we will finally meet that Prince Charming or that queen that we're looking for, that princess that we've been praying for, that God's best that we normally turn for. Lahat tayo, yun ang inihintay. Lahat tayo sabik na sabik, magawa yun. And one of the things that I realized that we talked about last week was when Boaz and Ruth was discussing about what's the thing that we look for in a partner. Andun yun, di ba? Nandun yung responsible, nandun yung trustworthy, nandun yung generous, nandun yung pero isa pinaka-importanting bagay na nakita doon is loyalty. Di ba? Narinig ba yung loyalty? Yung trust. Pag tinanong natin lahat dito, tinanong ni Brother Mel sa harap dito, sino ano gusto niyo? Gusto niyo ba yung asawa niyo maging loyal? Lahat kayo nagsigawan. Lalo na yung mga babae, yes, we want that. Loyal! Gusto namin loyal! Sa amin ang nakatingin! Mga ganun, di ba? Yun sabi, hindi sinigaw yun. Pero that's in the heart, right? That's in the heart, right? And that is why trust is such an important, integral characteristic of any relationship. Trust, once broken, is really something that is going to be a mountain climbing, going up to that. Mahirap, hindi madali. Kaya nagtataka ako, dito sa storyng to, itong story natin ngayon, this love story, because this love story started that way. God told our main character, Hosea, said that, hey man, God said to Hosea, and I'm going to paraphrase it, hey buddy, you're gonna get your wife. And then Hosea said, wow, fantastic news, I'm going to get it, but there's a catch. The wife that I'm going to give you is a prostitute. A prostitute. And I don't know how many of you here would be thrilled, men would be thrilled, or even women, thrilled na ang papangasawa mo, prostitute. This was what Hosea was commanded to marry by God. Wow. Let me ask you this. If God will give you an assignment of you would marry someone who you knew would be unfaithful, what would you think? What would you do? O sige, finally, magkakaroon ka na ng asawa, darating na. Pero kaya lang ang problema, isang problema. Ano problema? Pok-pok. Does that word still being used today? Medyo colloquial term yun years ago. I don't know if it's still being used today, but let me just check my vocabulary. Let me rephrase that. So, paano pag sinasabi ng Panginoon makapagpaksawa ka ng isang prostitute? Wow. Diba? Sobrang matipuno, sobrang maayos, sobrang mabango, sobrang lahat. Kaya lang problema, prostitute. Parang, oops, parang, Lord, parang, diba? Parang, wait. But it's exactly what happened in the Old Testament prophet called Hosea. Let me just take you right through there. Hosea chapter 1. When the Lord first began speaking to Israel through Hosea, he said to him, go and marry a prostitute so that some of her children will be conceived in prostitution. Antindi. This will illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning against the Lord and worshiping other gods. Obviously, unahan ko na kayo. Baka dumating kayo rito, first timer kayo. Sabi niyo, ay maganda yun about love. Pupunta ka doon. Alam ko paano mamili ng mga pangasawa. Ito, hindi po ito yun. Punta tayo sa Proverbs, punta tayo sa New Testament, but that's different. But you would know at the end, you will realize how important and integral this lesson is when it comes to understanding love. You see, God's purpose for Hosea's marriage was to Gomer, the prostitute, and use that as a means to mirror what's going to happen to Israel because of Israel's adulterous relationship with the world. It is a mirror. So God is using Hosea and Gomer's story to mirror what's currently happening during that time to Israel and God. So with regards to marriage, this is going to be a special case with a special purpose. It will talk about commitment. It will talk about loyalty. It will talk about sacrifice. It will talk about forgiveness. All of it wrapped in a blanket of unconditional love. And the Lord said in verse 4 to him, "Name him Jezreel, for yet a little while I will punish the house of Jehu for the bloodshed of Jezreel." So that means, nagkaroon sila ng anak, the early days of marriage was very beautiful. Hosea's love for Gomer and Gomer's love for Hosea blossomed, and God blessed their union with the son. How Hosea's heart must have been filled. Wow, I get a new son and I'm going to name him Jezreel. He was convinced that his marriage would be better off given that they already have a child. God named the baby Jezreel, for the name was to have some prophetic significance to the nation. But something happened after the first baby. And in verse 6, it takes us, everybody read this with me. Then she conceived and gave birth to a daughter, and the Lord said to him, name her what? Lo-Ruhamah. Say that with me. Lo-Ruhamah. What does that mean? For I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel, that I would ever forgive them. In verse 7, but I will have compassion on the house of Judah and deliver them by the Lord their God, and will not deliver them by bow, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. Let me just quickly tell you about a side note about Lo-Ruhamah. Lo means no or not. And Ruhamah means to have pity. So pag pinagduktong mo yun, Lo and Ruhamah, it means not having pity. So it means to have no pity. So nung nanganak yung second, si Gomer, ang pangalan ng bata, Lo-Ruhamah, to signify on the impending judgment that the country of Israel would experience when the prophecy to be invaded by Assyria would happen sometime years later. But after the second kid, something was already fishy going on. Hosea couldn't really take a grasp at it, but it came in full blown in verse 8 when it came that when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and gave birth to a son. In verse 9, and the Lord said, name him Lo-Ami, for you are not my people and I am not your God. So the third child, Lo-Ami, means not mine. This name seems to provide a significant approach both to the marriage of Hosea and Gomer and the relationship of Israel to God. You know, I was really trying hard to look and research and meditate and really consume the available research on this point, but we really don't know the circumstance or the truth how the child was discovered. But a lot of biblical scholars appears to somehow decide or conclude that the son, were not Hosea's. It came that apparently the two child after that, Lo-Ruhamah and Lo-Ami, were not really the son or the children of Hosea. And when that was discovered, and when Hosea came to the realization that the child was not his, well, wow, you can just imagine, yung doubt niya noong una, yung trust niya dati na prostitute nga to, kaya ayoko itong pakasalan, and yet God wanted me to marry this lady. Now all of those things are now coming into fold. It's finally coming out in the open. Now, Israel, and in the context, having been unfaithful, is about to experience the full extent of being cut from God. You see, this story, when it takes a dramatic turn in verse 6, knew that this was going to be a love story that's going to end in sadness. As we go into chapter 2, as Hosea understands that Gomer's really still being very unfaithful to him. And in fact, the two kids are not his. And as we go into chapter 2, it's noteworthy to understand, while the entire chapter 2, we're not going to go into it, but I'm going to speak onto it, talks about Hosea's prophecy that describes God's relationship with Israel and his unfaithful Israel. It's also a mirroring of what's going to happen, what is happening, or what has happened between Hosea and Gomer. You see in verse 2 in chapter 2, Hosea pleaded with Gomer. He pleaded with Gomer. And in fact, he threatened Gomer in verse 3. He threatened to disinherit her just to stay. But Gomer still ran away. She ran off with her lovers because they promised to give her lavish materials on him. That can be found in chapter 2, verse 5. And let me take you there in chapter 2, verse 5. Everybody read this with me. For their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them had acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers who give me bread, my water, my wool, my flax, my oil, my drink. You know, when you come across the Bible and you see a laundry list of these things or a list, it's noteworthy to look into it and understand. You see, these things, bread, water, wool, flax, oil, and drink, meaning a strong drink, these are actually the form of payments that men pay the prostitutes. Ito yung wages. Ito yung kinikita ng mga prostitute. Aside from cash, aside from money, this is what they actually get. And these are actually the basic necessities. The basic necessities of one's person's life. So yun. So when sinasabi niya, I will go after my lovers, ito kasi yun. The lovers are actually paying her. So this is actually in the context of her continually being a prostitute in spite of being married to Hosea. And therefore in verse 6, it says, Behold, I will hedge her up with thorns, and I will build a wall against her so that she can't find her path. You know, Hosea tried to stop Gomer. Ilagyan na niya ng mga horns, hedge, pero ayaw pa rin huminto. She continued to seek her companions in sin. She still wanted to seek her lovers. Hosea would have wanted to take her back lovingly with forgiveness, pero ayaw ni Gomer. Ayaw ni Gomer. She kept on repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And in fact, in verse 7, it turned to an awful turn when she said, she will pursue her lovers, but she will not overtake them. She will seek them, but will not find them. Then she will say, I will go back to my first husband, for it was better for me than now. You see, at this point of the narrative, Hosea would have really felt so bad. Ano ba to? Hindi na nga anak ko yung pinanganak, nabuntisan na pala, while I was still married to me, and I'm searching for her, wanting to give her, hedging her in thorns, keeping her into the walls, and yet she still goes far away. I mean, this is the backdrop. This is the characteristic of Gomer, the wife of Hosea. So I kept on asking, what drives Gomer to such extent? Pero bakit ganon? Bakit pinipigil na, inaawat na, pinipigil na, tuloy pa rin? Why is that so? You know how the Lord brought me? You know, the Lord brought me to actually, oftentimes, my state, ako, pagkatao ko when it comes to God. You know, God protects me, God provides for me, God puts some hedges to me so I want not turn left or turn right, but go straight. But there are times I still want to go and veer away from God. I still want to go on my own separate way. And my rebellious nature is still there in me. And that's why oftentimes, God allows certain consequences in our lives. We experience consequences. We experience pain. We experience suffering. We experience the result of a bad decision. We keep on committing the same mistakes over and over again, experiencing the hurt, experiencing the crazy cycle. Because why? Because we still pursue to run away from the Lord, to move away from Him, to move away from His umbrella of protection. And that's why in verse 11, he says, I will put an end to all her gaiety, her feast, her new moons, her Sabbath, all her festal assemblies. I will destroy her vines and fig trees. of which he said, these are my wages which my lovers have given me. See, the Bible is saying in verse 12 that I will destroy her vines and fig trees. What the Bible is saying, what God is saying is that, look, there will be consequences of your actions. And these fig trees, these vines, they are actually the wages, the payment of what Gomer earned from her being a prostitute. And the Lord said, I will take that away from you. And there are people in a lifestyle of sin, enjoying the rewards of the sinful world. But later on, at the end of their life, they will experience the consequences of those actions. When suddenly it will be taken away. When suddenly a tragedy, an accident, or in fact something bad will happen out of a result of their bad decisions. And oftentimes the Lord wants to protect us from that. But ang kulit natin eh. We still want to do things our way. And that's why oftentimes God is a gentleman and allows things to happen because of our disobedience. And this is exactly what he is saying to Gomer. I will punish her for the days of Baals when she used to offer sacrifices to them. Look at this. Ganda nito. Nung verse 12, di ba? Nung verse 11, sinabi na, I will put an end to all her gaiety, her feast, her new moons, her Sabbaths. What does that mean? Sabbath, new moons, festival, these are all religious worship activities of an Israelite towards their God. But in verse 13, okay, so there are religious things to God that these Israelites are doing, and yet in verse 13, they are still sacrificing, worshiping to Baal. So what is the Bible telling us? What is the idea being shared here? What God is saying, what the Bible is saying is this. How can you, Gomer, how can you honor me, worship me, give sacrifice to me, attend my festivals, do new moons, make the Sabbath, and yet still offer to Baal? How can that be? Paano pinagsasabay? Yan ang prostitution, sabay. And I realized, wow, I do that as well. There were times years before when I would read my Bible, and then all of a sudden I would go into the internet and I would watch porn. I mean, how can I do that? Or there are times before that I would pray to the Lord to save and bless the President of the Philippines, and yet I would dishonor my country. I mean, how can that be? How can I pray that, Lord, promote me, make me good in my workplace, in my job, and yet I steal from the very company I work for? How can that be? That is the spiritual prostitution that this narrative is teaching all of us. That we need to wake up. We need to wake up because if we don't wake up, we will suffer the consequences. And that is what the Lord was saying here in verse 11. And adorn herself with earrings and jewelry and follow her lovers so that she forgot me, declares the Lord. Wow. And that's why, nung una kong asar, dati kasi naasar ako, labo naman itong ni Gomer. Ano naman ito si Gomer? Ano ito ganyan? Mahal na nga siya ni si Hosea eh. Kala ko ano pang kalokohan ginagawa. I mean, nung umasok ko, then I realized, teka. Parang ako si Gomer ah. I mean, there are times that I am like Gomer. And before we cast judgment on this poor lady, I mean, we should have an honest-to-goodness understanding of who ourself is. What are we doing? Are we guilty of spiritual prostitution as well? You know, but this couple's narrative, this story contains a message we will not be able to escape. And that is this message. That in spite of the filth, the dirt, the sinfulness, the stubbornness of Gomer, Hosea's undying love for her follows through. The undying love through the love manifested by Hosea to Gomer is what God is telling Hosea. That's how much I love you. Hosea wanted to see Gomer restored to his side as his faithful wife. But Gomer did not want any one of that. And he believed that kahit anong hirap, because she is my wife and God is great enough that he will actually help me. But the story again turned for another twist for worse. Because amidst this desire of Hosea to reach out for Gomer, you know what happened? Gomer continued to pile herself up to deeper and deeper trouble. It came to a deepest, lowest bottom pit when Gomer, in her prostitution, had to, in fact, even sell herself to become a slave. Dahil nalulun na sa problema, sa utang, sa kahit anong consequences na tinanggal na lahat nangyari, because sin begets sin, the lowest part of Gomer actually happened when she became a slave. She became a slave, and at this point, the people around Hosea was saying, okay, Hosea, kalimutan mo na yung asawa mo. Ayun na. Wala na, pinakamababa na. Binenta niya ang sarili niya, nagpaka-slave na, nagpaka-alila na. So yan, pwede mo na siyang iwanan. This was the last straw. Certainly, Hosea would not forget her. But his heart said no. Hosea's heart said, I cannot give up to her. I cannot give up to her. I will not give up on her. I cannot give up on her. And following God's foretelling judgment of his punishment to Israel's unfaithfulness, the Lord announced his plan to restore the nation to its previous state. Ngaw, after niya makita, sige, pababayaan kita sa mga kasalanan mo, mararamdaman mo yung consequence niyan. Pero in spite of that, in spite of the suffering and the pain, I have a plan for you. Let me go back quickly to what is the design, right? Love, lead, provide, protect. That is the design, right? You would see how this design of how husband and wife should be is woven intricately in the next couple of verses when God now explains and shares to Gomer, to Hosea to Gomer, his amazing plan for restoration. It takes us to Hosea chapter 2, verse 14. If you have your Bible, if you want to follow, we're now in verse 14, chapter 2. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak kindly to her. Now, this is the first attempt of the restoration of Hosea to Gomer. Behold, I will allure her. What does allure means? Ano ba namin allure? Ano Tagalog ng allure? Hindi po alindog, hindi. What's allure? Allure is, akitin? Yes. Akitin, ligawan. It's courtship. Hosea said, you know what, Gomer, you're running away. Liligawa kita ulit. Wow! Ano man lalaki to? I mean, I will allure you. God's promise to allure Israel. It's a metaphor in courtship. Bring her into the wilderness. Bakit wilderness? What's the image? Remember, when the first time when the Israelites were taken out of Egypt, remember? When God said to Egypt, you are my people. Remember that? I will have a covenant with you. This is in Exodus. Remember that? And they were brought out to the wilderness. This is the same metaphor. It's the same image that God is telling his people, hey, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to take you out to the wilderness. The wilderness speaks back then, the wilderness connote images of being alone, being surrounded with trees, being isolated. And so the image that the Bible is telling us is that Hosea would take Gomer to the wilderness so that she and he can be alone. Far from the maddening crowd, far from the distraction of this world, you and me alone. Sarap naman nun. Pag di na lang yung mahal mong mahal mo na wala nang gulo-gulo, kayong dalawa lang. Pag mag-asawa na kayo, di ba? Yun. Hindi, kinaklaro ko lang. Mag-asawa na kayo, right? It's that attitude. And look at verse 14. And I would speak kindly to her. Allure means love. bring her to wilderness means what? Lead. So intricately woven in verse 14 is love and lead. And in verse 14, the Bible says, then I will give her. What does give her means? What does giving mean? Provide. I will give her vineyards from there and the valley of Achor as the door of hope. And she will sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. Ano po yung valley of Achor? Man, ba't mayroong valley of Achor? Ba't kaya may wilderness? You'd see, Hosea is poetry. And when the Bible speaks of poetry, it connotes images. It connotes stories within the stories that you need to pluck out and understand. You see, the Valley of Achor is a special place. It's a special place because if you go back to Joshua, in the book of Joshua, when the promised land is already going to be conquered by the Israelites, remember that they were going up against different people in Canaan, in the promised land. Marami silang nakakaaway. And then one of the group that they came across with was the descendants of Ai, the Ai, right? And in this descendants, in Joshua chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken, in Joshua chapter 7, ang nangyari was, Achan, tinago na yung mga ban na produkto, yung mga tools tinago. Naalala na ba yung story na yun? Tinago niya ngayon, tapos ngayon, nangyari was, tinalo siya ng descendants of Ai, kahit konti lang sila. Galit na galit ang Panginoon dahil nag-disobey si Achan, tinago yung loot, yung banned product or banned thing, yung tinago niya from the loot, from the booty. And that was the first time in the history of that covenant that there was a disobedience in the promised land. So, alam ng tao, yun, naalala nila yung first na nangyari yun. Kasi dami namatay. And then, because of that, what happened there? Ang nangyari doon, ang sinabi ni Joshua to Achan was, come on, just purify yourself. Admit that you mistake it and give glory to God. And all of the people, you need to purify yourself. Again, what purify means, it's about becoming being purified, purity. So again, makikita mo doon yung adulterous relationship that the Lord sees that when we disobey, we're actually being adulterous to His name. Kaya po yan, the valley of hope. Because even though nagkaroon ng problema, even though they disobeyed, God said, if you purify yourself, then I will give you hope. And that is why back there is the valley at the Achor of hope. And she will sing. Yan po ibig sabihin ng valley of the Achor. If you have time, basahin niyo chapter 7, Joshua, fantastic chapter. Then in verse 16, it will come about in that day, declares the Lord, that you will call me Ishi, and I will no longer call me Baali. You know what? Yung Ishi na yan, yung word na Ishi, ang ibig sabihin niyan, husband. In Hebrew, it means husband. And it's the same example, for those of you that were here in session 1, it is the same example, it's the same word, it's the same Hebrew term used in Genesis chapter 24, that's chapter 2, verse 24, when it was explaining what the name man is. Pareho po yan, yung man. Ishi means man. So if you look at the parallelism, for this reason a man shall leave his father, for this reason an Ishi shall leave his father and his mother. So it talks about husband and wife. Goes back again to the design. Bumalik ulit sa design. Love, lead, provide. And in verse 18, and I will abolish the bow, the sword, and the war from the land, and I will make them lie down in safety. What does that connote? Protect. Love, lead, provide, protect. In the plan of the restoration of God to His disobedient tribe and people, Hosea's desire to bring back and woo and allure his adulterous wife, Gomer, riddled in between that strategic plan is the design. The design of how we should pursue. The design of our characteristics as husband and wife. And in verse 19 it says, I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness, in justice, in loving kindness, in compassion, and I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, then you will know the Lord. What does betroth means, aside from having a difficult time to pronounce it? What does betroth mean? Betroth is this. Sorry, may ako narinig. Ha? Engage. Betroth is engage, is formally to ask in marriage. Ganda, no? So when all of that thing, all of that plan, all of that desire, it will finally come to a climax of the restoration. And the restoration is, I will engage you again. I will agree again to remarry you, to go back to you, to give to you my commitment. By the way, footnote, yung betroth sa Hebrew culture, pag ang lalaki, binitroth ka niya sa isang babae, yung lalaki magbibigay ng gifts. Ang tawag doon, bride-to-be gift. Kasi ang babae, pag kinasal na, aalis ng babae sa pamilya na. So yung pamilya mawawala ngayon ng help, mawawala ng additional working hands. So the culture then is that when you are going to betroth yourself to someone, you need to give gifts. Kailangan mong bigay. And here, in the parallelism of God and Israel, engaging again, being betrothed again, ito yung regalo. Ito yung gifts ni God. Righteousness, justice, loving kindness, compassion, faithfulness. That's the bride price. What God is saying, hey Israel, hey Gomer, come back to me. And here is my bride gift to you. And the culture back then is that when the person accepts the gift, that means sarado na yung kontrata. That means you're now engaged. Pag tinanggap. So here, what the Bible is saying, hey, Gomer, hey, my people, my stubborn, adulterous people, if you would accept my gift to you, if you want to go back to me, this is my gift. Compassion, righteousness, justice, loving kindness, faithfulness. That's my gift to you. And you know what? The more I meditate on these 5 words, 5 characteristics, it talks about intimacy. This is really who God is. He will give you righteousness when you give to Him your life, because He will make you right. When God looks at us, He would see Jesus in us. And because when we surrender and engage, as like Christ is the church, when we engage and marry Jesus in the spiritual marriage, that means we will become righteous. And there's justice going to be served because we deserve to die in hell and sacrifice for our sins and the consequences of that, and yet there will be justice because we have been paid for. And there will be loving kindness and there will be compassion because we do not deserve all of these things. And there's faithfulness. And look, in verse 18, all of this wrapped around the eternal promise of forever. That's what betroth means. Betroth you to me. Betroth you to me. Betroth you to me. And you know this, right? In the Bible, when there are 3 things said over and over again, what does that mean? It means superlative, right? Holy, holy, holy. Right? That means it's more than ever. Kasi wala silang most eh. Yun ang pinaka. So that means here, when you see this in the Bible and you understand this in one verse, same phrase written in one verse, that means it is of utmost importance in that messaging. But, you know what? These gifts, these divine attributes, function as God's pledge of Himself to Israel. Through them, God reestablished His relationships with Israel and enables them to know Him intimately one more. And this is what's awaiting Gomer. Folks, this is what's awaiting Gomer. This is what's awaiting for some of us here who've left God. This is what is awaiting for those of us who've left God for another love. This world. This awaits for the members of His church. We are the bride of Christ. Yet some of us have moved away from this relationship with Jesus and is in adulterous, sinful relationship with this world. We are prostitutes for sin. And God is telling us, restore yourself, come back. and we take us to chapter 3 as we come to the tail end of this amazing chapter. And in verse 1 in this amazing narrative, and in chapter 3 it says, "Then the Lord said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by her husband." After giving that plan, now God is asking Hosea, "Hosea, it's now your turn. Move, go. Go again, love a woman who is loved by her husband, yet an adulteress." By the way, let me just clarify this. Yung husband dyan, it's a little bit confusing in the NASB version. So I took the NIV version, and I'm gonna flash it here so you would understand that that husband, the man there in the husband, it's not Hosea. You see, in the NIV version, it says, "Go show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress." So that means, in spite of all these things, in spite of all the things na ginagawa ni Hosea, Gomer still decided to leave for another man. Wow! How could anyone love that deeply? How? After ilang beses ng tinakbuhan, inanakan sa iba, paulit-ulit mabalik, paulit-ulit lumalayo, and then for the fourth time, still with another man. Why? How can that be? What is the Bible telling us here? What is the Bible telling us here? Well, here, right there in verse 1, it says, "Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites." It's there. Only one who knows the love and forgiveness of God can actually love this way. Pag na-experience mo na yung forgiveness ng Panginoon, you have experienced His forgiveness, you cannot help but forgive others as well. You see, Christian husbands are commanded to love their wives as Christ have loved the church. And Hosea is a perfect example of how a husband should love his wife in the biblical example of love. So, what happens was, when God said, "Go look for your husband, or look for your wife," so Hosea went out of his way, began the search, driven by this indestructible love. Remember that love? 1 Corinthians chapter 13, remember that? Verse 7, "Love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things." It's a love that never ends. So here's that definition in action. And he found her. Hosea found her. After all of these things, destitute, sick, dirty, chained, filthy, slave. No wonder no one would love her now. And that takes us to verse 20. "So I bought her for myself 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley. Then I said to her, 'You shall stay with me for many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor you shall have a man, so I will always be towards you.'" How did we know that she was a slave? Look, I bought her for myself. The ordinary cost of buying someone back then was 30 shekels. 30 shekels. But here, you realize that it was, ang binayaran ni Hosea, 15 lang. Bakit 15 lang? Ba't kailangan pa ng homer and a half of barley? What is the Bible telling us? Bakit ganon? Ba't di binigay yung 30 shekels? Bakit? Kasi hindi kaya ni Hosea magbayad ng 30. That's why he needed to go pay in kind. Pay in cash and in kind, pinagsama. To give us an idea that everything that Hosea owned, she gave as a payment for Gomer. Ganon kaimportante si Gomer sa kanya. That Hosea will not spare anything, will not hold back, will not do that. He actually paid for her, brought her home, restored her to the position as wife. And this is how God is using Hosea as a supreme act of forgiveness to love someone sacrificially, unconditionally, and love that person to the point that because the love is so genuinely sincere and unconditional, it will melt the heart of the other person. And I have seen it personally. I have seen husband and wife separated for years. I have seen husband and wife getting to the point of killing one another for years, and then eventually getting back together. Why? Bakit napaka-powerful? Ano yung nangyari sa mga mag-asawa na magkaaway na matagal na siyempre pinagbabalikan? Paano nangyari yun? Sagot? Forgiveness. Forgive. Di ba, pinakita ko sa'yo, ang dami kong picture ng wedding. Ang dami ko na pong in-attenda ng wedding. Ang dami ko na pinicture ng wedding. Tsaka bilang pastor po ng singles, ang dami ko pong wedding na na-attendan. So every time na may wedding, memoryado ko ng message about the wedding. Alam mo, napaka-importante na rinig ko na paulit-ulit sinasabi ng wedding, during the wedding and the message in the wedding. Lagi nila sinasabi, CCF. C is for commitment. C is for communication. F is for forgiveness. Napaka-importante na forgiveness in any relationship. Napaka-importante po niyan. Sinisira niya ng relationship because forgiveness takes root and bitterness takes root at sinisira niya yung mga napakagandang relationship. Kaya po si Hosea and si Gomer, karoon yung sinasabi sa atin. How many times should a husband or a wife forgive each other? Alam mo mga sagot? Mga sagot ng mga nakakausap ko. Hindi ko siya pwedeng pagbigyan. Hindi ko siya pwedeng okay na lang lagi. Kasi pag ino-okay ko lagi yan, ibig sabihin, lahat na lang ng pattern ng sin niya, kinukonsiti ko. Kaya hindi, no forgiveness. Yan. O ibang narinig ko naman, ganito. If I keep forgiving her, she can get away with everything she wants. Yung mga sagot, di ba? Or others would say, I keep on forgiving. I keep on forgiving. Akala na tuloy, okay na sa akin. Pero nasisira yung loob ko. I mean, that's the response of people when it comes to forgiveness. Or ito yung mga narinig ko. Isa pa, isa na lang. Isa na lang. Narinig ko sa mami ko yan, sa daddy ko. Sabi ng mami ko, Eric, isa na lang ha. Alayas talaga ako. Natakot talaga ako. Alayas ng nanay ko. Isa na lang, alayas lang. I mean, we hear these things. You know what? You know why we hear these things? Because these are human responses. You want to listen to the response of Jesus? Peter asked him, Lord, how often shall a brother sin against me and I forgive him? Peter said in Matthew, 7 times? What did the Lord say? I not say to you, up to 7 times, but to 70 times 7. That's the response of Jesus. And I tell you, here in this place, when you have forgiveness, that's when love develops. Forgiveness is the key. A lot of you here, you're bearing a lot of unforgiveness. Dami, bit-bit. This is a great deal of forgiveness. In fact, when Jesus said 70 times 7, what Jesus was saying is a captivating way of saying, you know what? There's really no end to forgiveness. No end. Eh tayo, isa pa lang, warning na. Isa na lang, ha? I mean, 1 plus 1, dalawa lang yun. Diba? But the Bible says no, and that's why when I was hearing pastors share about marriage, about commitment, about communication, about forgiveness, they say an integral part of living together is forgiveness. Because you will hate one another. You will scratch one another in the wrong way. Eh, tayo nga, twice, 3 times lang tayo makita sa linggo. Medyo nagkakaasaran na minsan eh. Eh, paano pa yung asawa mo, araw-araw mo kasama, 24 hours, pag-gising mo, pagtulog mo, yun? Eh, so talaga magkakaroon ng problema. And that's why forgiveness is such a key. And maybe it's telling us that we should end and stop the unforgiveness in our relationships. Sometimes, it's those little things na nakakaasar. Yung maliit na bagay lang. That needs forgiveness. Sometimes, it's a word that they say, the words that we hear, na hindi naman talaga nila minimean, pero narinig natin, it came us the wrong way, galit na tayo. It eats us up. It builds bitterness and resentment that what happens, it erodes the very foundation of the relationship. May mga kilala ko, magkakaibigan, hindi na nag-uusap. Dahil sa 150 pesos. No, it's true. It's true. These are all true stories that I am aware of, that I am in with, that people, because of misconception, 150 lang, di mo naman bayaran? Ganon lang nasabi, nasaktan na. Ngayon, di na nag-uusap. I mean, why? Is that how we should love? Or maybe it's a major offense, like what Gomer did, for crying out loud. And we can never forget, and we let it fester in our head. Years have gone by, nandun pa din, hindi nakakalimutan. Isang konting daan lang, maalala mo na agad, galit na galit ka na. And in fact, some of us, gusto natin naalala kasi ayaw natin mawala yung asar. It's sad. That's not what love is. And if you're here, and you went here because you want to understand what love is, you need to understand love is forgiveness. That's how you do love. That's how you share love. And that's how you experience love. But every time, Lord, here's the thing. Every time they do it, again and again to you, everything, whatever that is, a word, a behavior, an action, something that you that really feel bad about and that you're hurt, every time they do that, you must remind yourself that you will want to forgive that person. Why? Because you need to rehearse in your mind how God has forgiven you. Yun ang susi. Pag asar na asar ka na, sabihin mo, I want to forgive you. I-rehearse mo yun sa utak mo, ilang beses na ako pinagbibigyan ng Panginoon. Alam mo, ganun ang ginagawa ko. Titignan ko sa sarili ko, napaka-makasalanan akong tao. But when I see how God has forgiven me, praise God, I have been, at this point, wala po ako sa buhay ko na asar o gayat sa kahit kaninong tao. Bakit? Kasi na-realize ko na ang Panginoon, napakabait sa akin. Anong karapatan kong hindi mag-forgive na ibang tao? And then when you do that, when you experience that, when you rehearse that in your mind, Lord, you have forgiven me, so I need to forgive this person. And then here's the thing. You need to ask the Lord, Lord, hindi ko kayang pagbigyan to. I cannot forgive this person, but you can. So please help me. Kasi gusto ko lang sabunutan pero tulungan mo ako. Paano hindi ko sabunutan? Diba? I mean, that's being honest to the Lord. Because forgiveness is going to ruin the relationship. But here's another thing. We're wrapping up. Here's the other thing. Forgiveness doesn't mean you need to be silent. Yun ang mali Yun ang mali. Sometimes, people think, to forgive is to remain silent. You can remain silent if you could handle what you're feeling. Understand? Pag kaya mong tingpiin, i-keep mo. Pero pag di mo kayang tingpiin, it is your right and your commitment to be honest to the other person about what you're feeling. But say it in a loving, kind way. Hindi pwedeng, alam mo, talagang hindi ko na talaga matiis to, Ganun na, hindi pwedeng ganon. Hindi pwedeng ganon. Kailangan ayos na ayos. Parang, you know what? I don't know, but pero kang sinabi kanina na hindi ko talaga nagustuhan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this really what you mean? Kasi it's coming to me the wrong way. And a lot of people heard it, and they think bad of you and me. And I don't want this to happen. So you see, you have to go out and talk about it. You have to understand that you have a right to talk about it. Kaya ibang tao, hindi sinasabi. Ano nangyayari? Hindi tinitiis, di ba? Tapos pag dumating yung time na talagang isang bagay lang, isang tingin lang na masama, sumabog na. Kasi nasa loob And that's the key of unforgiveness. You have to let it out. But neither does forgiveness means, another thing, aside from stepping, these are application already. Another thing, when you talk to that person about forgiveness, it also means as a person, you need to understand, baka you might also need to change. Tanungin mo ng sarili mo, ba't ka lagi nagagalit? Kasi lahat ng tao kaaway mo So ikaw kailangan magbago din. Kaya ka na minsan inaaway kasi napakataray mo. Lahat ng tao rin gusto mong kaaway. Siyempre, ganun din. So you have to ask yourself, meron ba akong ginagawa? And then positively, do some actions. For example, alam ko na ang sarili ko ng pinakakaaway ko sa tao, sa mundo, jeepney drivers. Alam ko na yan Alam ko na. Okay? So hindi ko nadadali ng sarili ko. Naalala ko, nakita ko dati, ang isang major prayer item ko, na nakatira pa ako sa Manila, ang prayer item ko noon is, pag punta ko sa opisina, wala akong makakaaway sa utak ko na jeepney driver. Yun ang prayer ko. Lord, please, wala makakaaway na jeepney driver. Then I realized, lagi na lang ako may nakakaaway na jeepney driver sa isip ko. So, ang ginawa ko ngayon, bakit pa ako naaaway? Ba't ganun? Kasi nagmamadali ako. At pag pumara yung jeepney driver at kumuha ng pasahero sa gitna ng daan, na kaya tuloy yung Pilipinas hindi masenso, dito lang sa gitna. Joke lang. Kaya naisip ko, teka, I need to do some positive action, positive steps for me to be out of that predicament. So, ang ginawa ko, umalis ako na mas maaga. Umalis ako mas maaga, umalis ako ng 6 o'clock, ibig sa 7 o'clock. Kaya kahit maganda yung Hillsong music ko, right? Relax lang ako. Hindi ako nagagalit kasi I made positive steps to address that unforgiveness. Kayo, ano yung mga positive steps na pwede nyo gawin to address the unforgiveness in your heart? Because that's the key. It's not just remaining silent. It means handling it, talking to it, taking positive steps to address it so that you could experience the forgiveness. Forgiveness, and the last thing about forgiveness is this. Forgiveness does not mean that I will forgive you, but you need to pay me. Listen to this. The final part of forgiveness is once you explain, once you talked about it, once you address your behavior, once you take positive steps to really correct the situation, here's the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. When you forgive someone, it doesn't mean that other person will have to pay. That means you have paid for that person. Let me repeat. Nyari, galit ako sa kanya. Nabasag niya yung nabasag niya kasi nabasag na napaka-importanting baso, for example. Ang act of forgiveness is this, bayaran mo yan, ha? Bayaran mo yan, binasag mo yan. Pag binayad mo na yan, bati na tayo. That's how people ask for forgiveness. But here's the forgiveness the biblical way. Nabasag mo yan, nag-sorry ka, huwag mo na ulitin, ha? Ayusin natin next time to, ha? Okay, sige, huwag ko nang bayaran yan. Sagot ko na yan. Yun ang forgiveness. Tayo, hindi tayo ng forgiveness. Ang forgiveness natin based on that other person. No, you have to give it back to me. You have to pay me back. You have to do something. You have to earn my trust. You have to all of these things. So, laging conditional. Ang pag-ibig ng Panginoon, unconditional. Yung po yung forgiveness. Akin yan. Binayaran ko na yan. Binayaran ko yung kasalanan mo. Binayaran ko na yung pagkapako ko sa krus. Lahat na mga aabutin mo sa impyerno, ako tumanggap para sa'yo. Yan ang pagmamahal ko sa'yo. That's how I love you. And that's what Hosea is telling Gomer. Regardless of your immorality, regardless of your filthiness, regardless of everything that you have done, I will still love you. I will still purchase you. I will say pay for your slavery of 30 shekels. In spite of what I cannot give, I will provide because that is my love for you. And folks, tonight, that love is only being mirrored by God's love for us. Yung po yung pagmamahal ng Panginoon sa atin. Na kahit ilang beses tayo lumalayo, kahit ilang beses po tayo nagpapaprostitute sa mundong ito, kahit naglalagakmak at nakikitulog tayo, nakikisleep in tayo sa bahay ng kasalanan, He would still willing to accept us back. Because that is God's love for us. And that is what it means. That's why Hosea can do that to Gomer. Because Hosea experienced God's unconditional love. And when we talk about forgiveness, some of us here needs to accept that there is forgiveness. We're carrying too much baggage. You're carrying too much baggage in your life. You think that you have done something in the past that love can do, that the love of God cannot reach. You keep it, you hide it, you carry it, and it's affecting you. It's affecting you, it's affecting your people around you, your family, your loved ones. That is what Hosea and the love story of Gomer is telling us about selfless love. Selfless love is never thinking about yourself, but thinking about the other one. That is the ultimate definition of love. And that is how God showed His love for each one of us. He allowed His Son to die on the cross for people like you and me who keeps on sinning and sinning and sinning. And yet, in spite of that, He still says, you know what, Ikoy? I still love you. I still love you. And that same message, brothers and sisters, is what God is telling all of us here. And that is key. You know why that is key? Because when you understand that, and it's now your turn to love the unlovable, your future wife, your future husband, your imperfect, your flawed, your sinful, your selfish future partner in life, you need to have that love. And when that love and his or her love comes together as one, we consummate God's design in husband and wife, in our life. Because when we do that, we point people to Jesus. We give the glory to Him. That's how it's love. That's what love is. And that's what love is what we should really know and embrace into our lives.